Greetings, classmates. Today I would like to discuss Laurel Thatcher Ulrich's 2001 article titled John Winthrop's City of Women. Most traditional accounts of Puritan Massachusetts portray a strictly patriarchal society where women were subject to male domination, frequently citing Anne Hutchinson's banishment from the colony as evidence. Ulrich's article re-examines Winthrop's own journal, arguing that this primary source reveals a world less patriarchal and more unsettled than many historians imply. Winthrop's journal documents the disruptive spiritual and political power of women at the time, who he suggested mattered in the cosmic scheme of things. Figures like Anne Hutchinson and Elizabeth Sherman constantly challenged the formal male authority represented by Winthrop. In his journal, Winthrop describes monstrous births and other female deviants, explaining his belief that God was writing women's errors on their bodies and reinforcing the need for his firm hand in government. Ulrich ultimately shows that the early colony was a battle over female assertiveness, religious dissent, and social status, which led to an environment full of active women political players. Let's go over some specific examples that support her claims. Number one, challenging the narrative of patriarchy. American history textbooks often use figures like Anne Hutchinson to symbolize the absolute patriarchal rule of Puritan Massachusetts. Ulrich turns this argument around by explaining that the Puritan movement itself initially encouraged a degree of female assertiveness by promoting, in her own words, lay engagement in religious discourse. When women like Hutchinson spoke their mind, they provoked the conservative leadership and became unexpected political actors capable of upsetting the governor himself. This aligns with Mary Beth Norton's work, where she examines how early American society was formed by these battles over gendered power. Winthrop's journal is full of female characters far more complex than secondary sources suggest. His journal shows the early decades of the settlement as a time of great uncertainty. Number two, the spiritual threat of Anne Hutchinson. John Winthrop labeled many as troublers of Zion, and Anne Hutchinson is the most famous. Winthrop saw her religious meetings, which saw 60 or 80 people in attendance, as public lectures and therefore a challenge to state and church authority. Her dangerous error of elevating inner grace over outward behavior undermined formal religious control and exposed contradictions in Puritan theology. Ulrich notes that Hutchinson's radicalism was very unsettling to Winthrop, enough so that he interpreted unfortunate events like stillbirth as judgment from God, thereby proving the need for firm government. Puritan theology was at the heart of these disagreements. As Charles Lloyd Cohen argues in his work, Puritans focused intensely on the labor of repentance, while the radicals stressed the joy of spiritual birth. Number three, economic and social power. The challenges in Puritan Massachusetts weren't just religious. Ulrich highlights the case of Elizabeth Sherman, a boarding house keeper who successfully pursued a lawsuit against Boston's wealthiest merchant over a lost pig. This became a notorious political event in the colony, forcing Winthrop to confront the contradictions of Puritan thought, specifically as it applied to the lowest members of society. On issues of sexual transgression and abuse, Winthrop's record suggests that colonial courts, as shown by Cornelia Hughes Dayton's research, were often willing to hold men accountable. Dayton's work confirms that female plaintiffs had good reason to believe that their voices would not be ignored in 17th century New England courts. Ultimately, Winthrop's journal, while attempting to assert patriarchal control, inadvertently exposed a dynamic world in Puritan Massachusetts, where gender was an unavoidable issue. Puritan ideology simultaneously constrained women through metaphors of submission and enlarged their spiritual and social roles. This allowed them to assert leadership and challenge authority in the New World. As noted by Helena M. Wall, the Puritan concept was an ambitious attempt to put the new wine of dissenting Protestantism into the old bottle of patriarchal order, and the result was a Massachusetts far more contested and lively than many histories portray. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to discussing this further.